struggling through life. Been there and done that with trifling people who told me my style would not work. I told them they wrong, they're struggling too long. This song is for you, I'm proving you wrong. Get out my way, get out my way, get out my way, get out my way.
I'm a genuine person. Like if I love you, I love you. If I don't mess with you, I don't mess with you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. Yeah. To all my peoples in the struggle, you know what I'm saying?
It's all good, baby.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape drop. Sipping on pirate stock. Way back when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember rapping through the hard. You never thought that hip hop could take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Piece to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri. Funk Master Flex, Love Bug, Star Ski. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call a crib, same number, same hood. It's all good. And if you don't know, now you know. You know very well who you are. Don't let it hold you down. Before the I made the change from the common thief to up close and personal with Robin Leach. And I'm far from cheap. I smoke stuff with my peeps all day. Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. The no way and Alizé keep you dissy. Girls used to diss me. Now they writing letters cause they miss me. I never thought it could happen, this rapping stuff. I was too used to packing gas and stuff. Now honey's plenty coast like butter plate toast. From the Mississippi down to the East Coast. Condos to Queens, indos to weeks. Sold out heat to hear Biggie next seat. Living life without fear. Putting 5 carats in my baby girl ear. Lunches, brunches, interviews by the fool. Considered a fool cause I dropped out of high school. Stereotypes of a black male misunderstood. And it's still all good. And if you don't know, now you know. You know very well who you are. Before the start. Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was that broke and I couldn't picture this. 50-inch screen, money green, leather sofa. Got to ride a limousine with a chauffeur. Phone bill about 2 G's flat. No need to worry while I cut my handles back. And my whole crew is lounging. Celebrating every day, no more public housing. Thinking back on my one-room shack. Now my mom pimps an act with me in the back. And she loves to show me off, of course. Smiles every time my face is up in the sauce. We used to fuss when the landlord dissed us. No heat, wonder why Christmas missed us. Birthdays was the worst days. Now we sip champagne when we thirsty. Damn right, I like the life I live. Cause I went from negative to positive and it's all. And if you don't know, now you know. Stop. What up, y'all? What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing today? How are y'all doing today? Welcome. Let's see what we got going on up in here. I want to welcome everybody to Atmos Love Zone Live. Y'all know what we do on this channel. We get down to the facts. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat for those that want to come in and help me read. We are going to get into it today. Give me one moment. Let me put this in here. Let me paste it. All right, there's the link. I'm going to pin it to the top. Thank you, Tyra Henny. I got that towards the transcripts. I will send your transcripts out. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me do this right here. All right. Turn this down. Okay, perfect. Let me pin this to the top. So anybody wants to come in and help read? I know Diva Time reached out to me and said she could help today. I appreciate it. Let me see who up in here. Who up in here today? Who up in here? Okay. Reached out to me and said she could help today. Let me see who up in here. Who up in here today? Who up in here? Let me see who up in here. Who up in here today? Who up in here? Let me see who up in here. I'm gonna mute your mic right quick, English girl. You may have to turn down the YouTube, your other device. Turn the YouTube volume down, and then I'm gonna bring you in. Give me one moment. They go Diva Time. What's up, Diva Time?
Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yup, you sound perfect. Let me see
right,
if the English girl in London got it together. Diva Time. Hey, English girl. What's up, Diva Time?
Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yup, you sound perfect. Let me see
right,
if the English girl in London got it together. Diva Time. Hey, English girl. What's up, Diva Time?
Hello. Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yup, you sound perfect. Yo, hold one moment.
Hello. Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yup, you sound perfect. Yo, hold one moment.
Hello. Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
What's going on? All right.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How y'all doing?
All right, English girl. You got an echo, honey. You got an echo. It's hard to hear. So what you may have to do is turn your other device down, all the way, the volume all the way down, because we hear an echo coming from you.
Who has an echo?
Do is turn your other device down.
Who has an
All
echo?
the volume all the way down. We hear an echo coming from you. See, I hear.
Who has an echo?
Do is turn your other device down.
Who has an echo?
You go, Miss echo coming from you. See, I hear.
Who has an echo?
Do is turn your other device down.
Who has an echo?
You go, Miss echo coming from you. All right, we're gonna get that together. Let me go ahead and get into this. Let me see who up in here real quick. Tyra Henry, hello. How are you? Welcome in. Earth Goddess in the building. Hello. What's up, Axel? How are you? Nettie Boo in the building. What's going on? Just Videos. What's up? Oh, okay. Nettie, I was determined to be here from the beginning. Smash the like. Thank you so much. Work phone on Do Not Disturb. Rush Puppy to do his business.
Okay.
And ready for that intro. I was determined to be here from the beginning. Smash the like. Thank you so much. Work phone on Do Not Disturb. Rush Puppy. This English girl. I hear there's an echo coming from you. Hello. Smash the. All right. I'm gonna have to let Miss English get it together. Miss London, I'm sorry. Okay, Miss Mo. What up? K-Love 92, welcome back. It's Quacious in the building. West Coast Bells in the building. Let me see here. Let me see here. Who else? Daddy's Girl 1973. Hello. Welcome in. Take RKelly back. What's going on? Jay McBride. Sharon Spiller. Sparkly Coffee Girl. How are you? Lady Eugene in the building. Diva Time is on the screen. Let's see who else up in here. Who else? Star Cheers 1. What's up? Hey, Jacqueline Jones. Hello. Constantly, continuously evolving. How are you? Lanice Robinson. Hello. April Showers in the building. Hello. And let me see. Latrice B. Hello. Eva Thomas. Hello. DJ Natasha is in the building. DJ Natasha, did you catch any of the battle last night? SF Spiritual Gangsters up in here. All right, I think I got everybody. Andrew Staples. Toon Lagoon is in the building. All right, y'all. I think I got everybody. This 504 girl, RKelly is a dog head, Keisha Pace. We'll see if we got it together this time. Let's see. All right, y'all. I think I got everybody. This 504 girl, RKelly is a dog head, Keisha Pace. We'll see if we got it together. Your volume is up. All right, y'all. I think I got everybody. This 504. I got her muted for right now, y'all. Okay, y'all. So look, let's get into this. I wanted to go over this right quick because this is I had a feeling this would happen as far as his music is concerned. So obviously his music has shot up, his music sales, right? Who got off? What question go? Oh, questions right here. Diva Time's here. Okay. It's English girl in London. Hold on. Shot up his music sales. Yeah. Okay, Miss English girl got that echo going. Okay, y'all. So check this out. We about to get into this real quick. I want to go ahead and read this to y'all. Let's see. This is out of the Rolling Stone. It says RKelly's sales soared 500% after guilty verdicts. The singer's streams were also up 22% in a week after he was convicted of racketeering, sexual exploitation of a child, and kidnapping. So it says RKelly's fall from grace accelerated after he was found guilty of racketeering, sexual exploitation of a child, and kidnapping, but his streams and sales haven't fallen at all. Let me see what this is saying. Hold on. Read the full story. Oh, they're trying to. Okay, I'm not about to get into this whole thing. Y'all get the gist of it, though. Okay, so, you know, all of his people ran over there to get his music because they feel like, oh my God, they're about to get rid of RKelly music. Everybody went over there rushing to get that music. You know what I mean? All of his people ran over there to get his music. They feel like, oh my God, they're about to get rid of RKelly music. Everybody went over there rushing to get that music. You know what I mean? Okay, I had to. Miss English girl, we got to get that echo together. All right, y'all. So check this out. How's everybody doing? Diva Time, how your day going?
My day has been awesome, like really, really great. I wanted to tell you, I first needed to ask which transcript are we, what day are we on?
We on 18 right now.
Okay, look, I don't know who you got reading for the judge, but I want to be Judge Ann. I've been reading through, but I do need you to send me whatever we reading from today, because I don't have it. I got 20.
Yes, you do got it. You got it. You got 8. You got hold up. I'll send it again. I thought you
and I text you my email too. Let me see.
I got day 20, and I was reading through day 20. I was like, "Ooh, I want to be Judge Ann."
No, don't give it away. Keep going here. Hold on. Let me get it. So day 18. You said you don't got day 18. Okay.
No, I don't have it.
Me neither.
To you. All right, Diva. And question, give me the first 3 letters of your email.
STR. I texted it to you a few minutes ago.
I got you. All right, 18. Okay, so we starting right at the top. So, okay, Diva Time, you can be the judge. That's
Thank you, bro.
Let me see. Well, we got CHERYL, MACK. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, Diva Time, you can be the judge.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Hold on. Let me see. Well, we got CHERYL, MACK. Let me see. Hold on.
Lady D,
okay, Diva Time, you can be the judge.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Hold on. Let me see. Well, we got CHERYL, MACK. Let me see. Hold on.
Lady D,
okay, Diva Time, you can be the judge. The echo. I gotta. I'm sorry, English girl. We gotta get that echo together. I think you got too many devices playing right now. So, like, if you got like a phone, English girl, we gotta get that echo together. I think you got too many devices playing right now. Or maybe they close to each other. Pull one of them. If you got If you got like a phone, girl, we gotta get that echo together. I think you got too many devices playing right now. Maybe they each other. Pull one of them. If you got, can you hear me? If you got like a phone, girl,
I can hear you.
Okay.
And I've switched my phone off.
You turn the phone on. Cause I got to hear everybody else to make sure it's not.
Hear you. And I've switched my phone off.
You turn the phone on.
Yep.
You. I got to hear everybody else to make sure it's not.
Hear you. It's still echoing. Oh. And I've switched my phone off.
I'm sorry. I know. I want you to be able to read too, but that echo can kill us.
Still echoing. Oh.
Riri,
What's happening?
how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing. You want to be Cheryl Mack?
Yeah, I'll be Cheryl. I need to, what you said 18 though, right?
Yeah, go to 18.
I don't have 18. I have 17, 19, and that's it.
You got 17, 19, and that's it. Man, y'all keep sending out these transcripts to so many people. Okay,
I know you do. Miss, it's MSZ Purple.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, Miss Mo. What? Hold on. Let me get Miss Mo in here. Hey, Miss
I
Me.
have not. Hey, bro, I have not received any thing yet. I was just letting you know they ain't came through yet.
Miss Mo. Unmute your mic.
Hello.
There you go. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. I will help if needed, but if you don't need me, I could drop and go back in the chat. It's up to you.
I could definitely use your help. So what we can do is, because I'll just be candid. I got enough. Listen, y'all women can take over the panel. I don't care. I'll be candid and I'll just chill out and save up for that. I'm cool with that. So what we'll do is Diva Time, you could be the judge. Quaisha, if you could read, the intermediate parts for me.
Yes, sir.
And Riri, you can be Cheryl Matt, or you can be the government. Or you could be Cheryl Matt, Riri. And then Miss Mo, you could be the government, okay?
Okay, and I sent you in the chat my email address just in case.
Okay, you did? Okay, let me get it. Hold on. Diva Time said, hold on. Do me a favor. Let me do this. So, Diva, hold on. Diva Time Dance Company. Okay, Miss Mo, let me get your email one more time. Go ahead, just say it for me.
Okay, N, the letter N, V as in Victor, MYIVY@gmail.com.
Hold on. All right, there we go. Yay. Okay, so Diva Time, check your email. Miss Mo, check yours. And let me know. Riri, did you get it yet? Hold on.
Okay, I'm pulling yours up now.
I didn't get it yet. But I mean, my thing might be slow.
Refresh your email.
Diva Time, refresh your email. I keep telling you, got that Obama phone. A lot of stuff don't work on that Obama phone.
Okay, stay him. I got both of them. I see you sent it twice, bro. Don't make me bust you.
Okay.
Because you know I will. I'll talk about my phone.
And what's the first page we're starting on? Or is it the very first beginning?
Oh, right at the top. We're gonna start straight from the beginning. We fresh on. Oh, okay. Not sure how to do the echo. Canceled it. Not look. It's my bad. It's okay. Shorted mic out. English girl from London. Okay, English girl, if you could, I'm gonna get with you a little later. We're gonna see if we can get your the technical things worked out. I would love. Thank you for volunteering to read. I think we got enough right now to read though, but I definitely would love to have your help in the future. Thank you so much. All right, y'all.
I just want to hear that accent she had.
I want to hear accent too. Hold on, let me see if I can hear. Hey, Miss English girl. To have your help with you. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Miss English girl.
Accent she had.
I want to hear accent. Second girl.
Too much.
Love Miss English
It's too
girl.
much. Yeah.
She just has to have them.
I have no idea what's going on here.
Only
love
certain devices.
I have no idea.
You got your 100 devices playing right now.
I haven't. I've switched them off. I've turned my phone off. I'm playing around. I'll be there. I'll work it out. Don't worry.
All right, so what I'll do, I think I have enough people today, Miss English girl. I do appreciate you, but we'll try to get you together, okay? All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this. Hold one moment. Okay, so everybody know where they at? Diva time, you the judge. Quaisha, you doing the intermediate parts. All the parentheses. Miss Me, Miss Mo, you are going to be the government, and Riri, you're gonna be Cheryl Mack, and I'm gonna be Canic, the mechanic. All right. So let's pull this up.
Unit.
What you saying?
I'm in the storage unit.
You are in the storage. I saw you was in the storage.
That's storage unit 48. F as in Frank.
That's crazy.
Right. So, ladies, we can start right here at the top of 3750. It's and Quaisha, everybody get to wait. Everybody at 3750.
Yep.
Everybody good?
Actually, yeah, I'm there. We there. I'm there. But
all right, y'all.
I wanted to pull it up on my phone too, so I got to pull it up. I'm ready.
Let's get it. Okay, Quaisha, start us off.
In open court, jury not present, parties present.
So I'll do the clerk and I'll do Canic. All rise.
Everybody can sit down. All right. Anything before we get started?
Yes, Your Honor. May we approach briefly?
Yes. Do you want the court reporter? Might as well. Is it scheduling or is it?
A little of both.
Let's get the court reporter then.
Sidebar! Here we go. Sidebar, y'all. Sidebar. Okay, go ahead, question.
Sidebar conference held on the record in the presence of the court and counsel.
I'll deal with the legal stuff first. Your Honor, it's my understanding that the government is going to call a witness this morning, CHERYL Mack. Based on the 302, it seems as though much of her testimony would be hearsay. And there's also going to be a reference to a settlement agreement.
Do you mind holding on a second so I could get my colleague who is putting on Miss Mack?
There's a Paul. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me turn my volume up, y'all. Let me turn my volume up. All right, there we go. Now I can hear. Okay. Look, it's my understanding that the government is going to call. Hold on. Did I read that twice?
No, you read it right.
Okay. It's my understanding that the government is going to call a witness this morning, CHERYL Mack. And based on my review of 302, it seems as though much of her testimony is going to call for hearsay testimony.
I'm not.
Just tell me who she is.
She knew the defendant in two different periods of time. One when she was a talent manager, including a singer named Precious in 2015-2019 period, initially with Divine Stevens, and became then became his executive assistant. I'm not planning to elicit hearsay. The statements I'm going to elicit regarding Precious and any claim she may have had against the defendant will be from the defendant, what the defendant told her about that, and then the defendant's lawyer asked her to sign an affidavit regarding that. So that's what I'm going to elicit, those things.
Okay.
And I'm purposely asking this way so not to elicit hearsay, and may ask her, do you speak to, without telling me what she said, did you speak to Precious? And then that did you have a conversation with the defendant? I'm not planning to go into hearsay.
Okay.
Excellent. Was there something else?
Well, the other thing is that it's my understanding that they plan on introducing a settlement agreement between Mr. Kelly, Precious, and Precious's mom. And I don't see how they could get that in withhold.
Well, there will be testimony about claim from what the defendant and the lawyer, defendant's lawyer said to her about claims that Precious made. And I can tell you it's not going to be very detailed. The settlement agreement is a business record maintained and it corroborates the testimony. So I do think the law firm that had it.
The settlement record, I mean.
Do you have any certification from that?
We do.
Okay, then I'm fine. Just in terms of scheduling, we will be prepared, Your Honor, for the charge conference Monday afternoon.
Okay. Do you have additional requests to the charge you want to give me?
I think so.
You're putting on a case.
Yes.
So what I usually do is I get the request to charge. We have already got a draft of the charge now, but I would like to get the request charge, give it to the parties, and then have the...
Okay.
Your Honor asked for us to give any additional ones by some point today.
That was my request.
We don't have the manpower.
So do you have an idea of how many witnesses you will be calling? It will just help me figure out. I'm thinking of the charge conference. We can do it later on Monday. I'm not sure. Well, let me see. I mean, I have requested initially, and I cannot remember if you were on the team at this point. I think you were, but brand new. I had asked the parties to submit a request to charge before we started.
Yes, I was on.
And I do not think I incorporated all of your requests.
Well, I only had one, and you rejected it. You know, Judge Kaplan loved it. I mean, he loves it. I mean, that's where I got the charge from.
He is a fine man.
I think if Kaplan finds it good enough, I don't understand why judges consistently refuse to tell jurors about something important.
That is Southern District. They are loftier than we are.
Oh, okay.
But I do not know how much additional you will have. Obviously, there will be some instructions about how to consider various things that have come in, and I will take both of your input on it, on just how the jury is to evaluate various kinds of evidence that came in. I'm not sure that a whole lot has changed. I mean, I had stuck an instruction in there about, witness prep, which I may have had already about witnesses having lawyers. I mean.
So I think actually those were two different ones we were planning to submit on. It sounds like you covered it. So
I have a very smart law clerk.
I'm absolutely certain of that.
Look, I think we will finish earlier today because my cross won't be.
Okay. Are you doing both of them?
Yes.
Keep reading.
Hold on. Oh, yes. And then, are you anticipating? Hold on. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. And then, are you participating? See, I think. Okay. And then, are you participating? What my request will be regarding summation is that we do it all in one day. I think it would be unfair. The case with all this evidence to have the people give theirs. I mean, the government give theirs. I give mine. and then they have overnight to rebuttal.
Well, let's see what happens. I would like to do that, but I am very cognizant of the fact that this jury has been sitting for quite some time. And so the other thing I'm concerned about, which is always in the back of my mind, is I do get concerned about COVID. And so it is in everybody's interest to get it moving as quickly as possible. Perhaps I might have said this once myself as a lawyer. They always think there's a big advantage about, jurors thinking about something overnight or whatever. I do not happen to think that is such a big deal.
I will just say I'm doing the rebuttal. I actually prefer to go right after. What I will say is if it's 5, I don't want to be limited. So if we can start and conclude it the next day, I'm fine with that. But I don't want to be limited to.
Why don't we drive down this bridge when we come to it?
Okay, and look, and I'm just trying to think exactly when we finish today. I mean, I would just like to run and get home and just jump in the bed and shower later on.
I don't have anything to say about that one.
What did the judge say?
All right. Why don't we get the witness, please, y'all?
Hold on. No. What did the judge say after he said shower and later on? What she say?
I don't have anything to say about that. He said I have nothing to say about that, but I put my own spin on it. I don't have anything to say about that.
You think he's at the beach, or I'm like, what is?
Go ahead, question.
Sidebar ends, Kenny. Sidebar ends.
All right, why don't we get to the witness? Get the witness, please. Get the witness, y'all.
Our next witness is CHERYL MACK.
Okay.
Your Honor, before we call the witness, I was just going to read a couple of stipulations and enter some exhibits.
Sure, and just with the stipulations, I do not think you have to read the beginning and the end of all of that.
I got it.
As great as that stuff.
Your Honor, could we address one? We can actually do it out loud. We don't need a sidebar. Your Honor, since we're doing stipulations, can we wait to bring the witness in?
Yes.
So, Your Honor, as we discussed at the end, I guess I wasn't last week, but what feels like it, but the end of Wednesday, the government wanted to elicit just a few quick questions from Special Agent Chabot about a 2017 BuzzFeed article, and Your Honor urged us to reach a stipulation. I believe we have reached a stipulation. There's just one dispute. The government wants to include in this stipulation that the article itself included not just allegations by the parents of Jane, but also allegations by the parents of Joy to help explain why the defendant then engaged in, the various tactics to attack his girlfriend's parents. And they engaged in some sort of letter writing campaign where there were, numerous allegations, in the government's view, false allegations against his parents. It's my understanding that, and I don't speak for defense counsel, but I think defense counsel is fine with the inclusion of Jane, but has an issue with including Joy.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the letters were directed to a different witness's parents.
The letters addressed actually each Jane, Anna, and also Joy's parents. And all of those letters are in evidence, as well as Dominique.
Can I just see the stipulation you have reached, and then maybe?
Your Honor, just so you know.
Microphone, just so I can't hear you.
Well, just so you know, our objection to the stipulation is just only the portion that deals with the parents of Joy.
Right.
We don't have an objection to Jane's parents.
Oh, sorry.
Jane.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Why don't you just say Jane's parents and others?
That's fine with us.
Yes.
All right.
Can I say another girlfriend and other girlfriends?
Jane's parents, as well as if it is just one other, the parents of another girlfriend.
Yes, yes.
All right. I feel that like that was such an accomplishment. Jeez.
It was.
And so you want to read the stipulation before we call the witness in?
Yes.
Probably makes more sense than having the person just sitting there. So if we are ready for the jury, let's do that.
All rise.
Jury enters the courtroom.
You may be seated.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We are ready to resume. I think the government has a few stipulations and then they will call the witness. Go ahead.
Thank you. The government offers the following exhibits. I don't believe there is any objection from defense counsel as to these. 410, 410A, 411, 411A, 641, 645, 913A, 914A, 950, 965A, 948B, and C, 400, 162, 974, 233G, H, N, Q, R, S, and T, 342B and C, 329B, 328B, 702, and then 932. And then there are 3 steps that we are offering right now: 1015, 1016, and 1017, as well as any exhibits that are referenced in the stipulations. And then I would like to read some of the now admitted. Some of these steps were previously entered. Your Honor, all those exhibits are entered into evidence.
Oh, sorry. I guess I assume, are you stipulating to them? It does not matter. They are in. Okay. Government exhibit 410, 410A, 411, 411A.
We read those, Judge.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
You got a question?
Yeah. Government's exhibit 410, 410A, 411, 411A, 641, 645, 913A, 914A, 950, 965A, 948B, and C. 400, 162, 974, 233G, H, N, Q, R, S, and T, 342B, and C, 329B, 328B, 702, 932, 1015, 1016, 1017 were received in evidence. Okay.
Just one moment. All right. And if called as a witness, and this is Government Exhibit 1006, if called as a witness at trial, a representative of DuPont Tejan Films would testify as follows. A component part of all VHS tapes is polyester film. DuPont and its successor entities, including DFT, which is DuPont Tejan Films, manufactured polyester film, including Mylar, that was a component of VHS tapes in and before 1999. Neither DuPont nor its successor entities had any plants used to manufacture polyester films in the state of Illinois. While in and before 1999, there are entities, in addition to DuPont and its successor entities, that manufactured the polyester film used in all VHS tapes. All of those entities were located outside the state of Illinois and manufactured polyester film outside the state of Illinois. Then, also, if called as a witness at trial, a representative of Canon would testify that Canon camcorders manufactured between 1997 and 2010 included Canon XL 1S mini DV digital video cassettes, were manufactured with components and materials from outside the state of Illinois, including components and materials from outside the United States. And Government Exhibit 1001 is a stipulation that includes, if called as a witness at trial, Imugula, I'm so sorry, I messed that up, Passy, would testify as follows. Passy is an assistant manager of Sheraton Suites Chicago O'Hare, a hotel located at 6501 North Manheim Road, Rosemont, Illinois. A Sheraton hotel has been located at that address since in or before 1994. Government Exhibit 1015 includes the following. If called as a witness at trial, David Fish, Esquire, would testify as follows. David Fish obtained a cellular telephone and a t-shirt, which t-shirt he identified as Government Exhibit 241, hereinafter the t-shirt from the Loggins Law Firm in Chicago, Illinois, on or about June 10, 2013. The Fish Law Firm maintained the cellular telephone and t-shirt until November 17, 2017, and it returned both items to Ms. Pace. If called as a witness at trial, Detective Donald Dean with the Olympia Fields Police Department would testify as follows. On November 18th, 2017, Ms. Pace provided a cellular telephone and a t-shirt, which he identified as Government Exhibit 241, to the Olympia Fields Police Department. The Olympia Fields Police Department maintained the cellular telephone and t-shirt until February 13th of 2019, when it provided cellular telephone and t-shirt to Anna Doyle, an investigator at the Cook County State Attorney's Office. If called as a witness at trial, investigator Anna Doyle would testify as follows. On February 13th, 2019, investigator Anna Doyle with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office provided a t-shirt which she identified as Government Exhibit 241 to the Illinois State Police.
Slow down a little bit.
Sorry.
That's all right.
The Illinois State Police Division of Forensic Sciences. Government Exhibit 1016, another stipulation, includes the following. Government Exhibit 902 is an excerpt from the video with a title card stating RKelly, Born into the 90s docugroove, length 5750. First air date, May 5th, 1993. Executive producer, Billy Woodruff. Producer, Andrea Smith. Editor, Tracy Branson. The video from Government Exhibit 902 the video from which Government Exhibit 902 was excerpted first aired on the BET network on May 5th of 1993. And finally, Government Exhibit 1017 is a stipulation that includes in July 2017, BuzzFeed published an article describing allegations against the defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, which allegations had been lodged by the parents of an individual who testified in this trial as Jane and the parents of another of the defendant's girlfriends. Your Honor, there is one other exhibit which I think we are going to make some additional redactions to, and we will enter that after the next witness.
All right.
Your Honor, there is one item that we...
Can I just ask you to speak into the microphone?
There's one item that we stipulated to, I think the 702. In reviewing it, I realized that there is some extraneous notes on it. And we're not stipulating to those notes. We're just stipulating to the document itself.
That's fine. We can redact the notes.
Okay.
Okay. Other than that, are we ready to go? All right. Why don't you call your next witness?
The government calls CHERYL MACK.
Witness enters the room.
Please stand and raise your right hand. You're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Witness sworn.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay. Just before we begin, I want to give you a couple of guidelines for testimony. First, you can take your mask off so we can hear you better because we've got the plexiglass there. The first thing is, let's move the microphone a little bit closer to you. If it's easier you can actually take the microphone off the stand. I think some people find it easier to speak into it that way, but it's entirely up to you. So I do want to make sure the jurors can hear you, and I want to make sure the court reporter, hold on. I want to make sure the court reporter gets down what you have to say. So please do not speak too quickly, and do not speak over whichever lawyer is asking you questions. If a lawyer does ask you a question that is not clear, or you need to have, hold on, y'all. I had to go back and find our place. Maybe I should just put
We're at line 15.
line 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On what page?
Page 3765.
Oh, we had got down way far. Okay, hold on, y'all. Sorry about that. Sorry to make y'all interrupt.
You good?
That's why I try to tell people, don't insult people in the chat that's doing this, because it's hard to read in front of other people and be comfortable. So I told them to respect people. I knew one day I was going to try it. All right, here we go. If a lawyer does ask you a question that is not clear, or you need to have repeated, just let me know, and I will have these straighten them straighten it out. And just do your best to answer only the questions you are being asked, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead. I do not think your microphone is on, though, so just tap the end of it. Or, oh, maybe it is. Great. All right, yes, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
CHERYL MACK, having been first duly sworn, was examined and testifies as follows.
Did you receive a subpoena to testify here today?
Yes.
Do you want to be here today?
No.
How far did you go in school?
To college.
And after college? Well, first, what type of degree did you receive in college?
Business management.
And after college, did you work in corporate jobs for a period of time?
I did. I worked in a corporate America, yes.
And at some point, did you start working professionally in talent management?
Yes.
Around when was that?
The later part of 1998, 99.
And what type of work did you do in talent management?
I scout talent. I manage talent pretty much.
And when you started to work in talent management, did you form your own company?
Yes, I did.
And did you start to work with various clients, artists in the entertainment industry?
Yes.
I'm showing you what is in evidence as a government exhibit 1. Do you recognize this person? If you look, there is a screen in front of you.
Judge.
Oh, okay. It is in evidence. Wait a minute. I do not think
it's in evidence.
It is in evidence. Okay.
Why isn't the screen working?
All right. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. Do you see something on your screen?
No.
Your Honor, our screens are off.
There we go.
Okay, I see now.
Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Do you recognize the person in government exhibit 1?
Yes.
Who is that?
RKelly.
And have you met RKelly in person?
Yes.
Do you see RKelly in the courtroom here today?
Yes.
Can you please identify him by an item of clothing he's wearing?
A black jacket.
Well, a couple of people there. Well, a couple of people there have a black jacket on.
Can you point him out?
Yes, the second from the right.
Indicating the defendant.
Thank you. Around when did you first meet the defendant?
Around 2005.
And were you working as a talent manager at that time?
Yes.
And what city were you in when you first met him?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Did you meet him in 2005? Did you attend the Video Music or did you attend events surrounding the Video Music Awards, MTV Video Music Awards in Miami?
Yes.
And did you meet him there or did you meet him sometime prior to that?
There.
Okay. And was that in 2005?
Yes.
And do you recall around when in 2005 that was?
It was August. It was the weekend of Hurricane Katrina.
And how was it that you ended up meeting the defendant in August 2005 in Miami?
I was in a restaurant with my artist at the time, and there was a gentleman that came over to the table that we were sitting at. And he looked pretty important, asked what we do, what we were doing. And I explained that I was a manager and that I had my talent here. So he said, oh, okay, pretty interesting. Can she sing? I said, yes. He said, well, I would like to introduce you to somebody.
And who was the singer that was with you at the time?
Sherry Hawk.
And after that, what happened?
After that, he left. And he came back to the table and he said, are you guys ready? And we said, yes. And then he walked us back to the table, and it was a table in the back. And that's where he introduced myself and my artist to Mr. Kelly.
And after you were introduced to the defendant, what happened?
So after that, she sang for him. He asked if she could sing a song for him, and she did. She did amazing. And he asked her, do you do any other song? He asked her to do another song, and she did. And she did an amazing job. And he asked her to do a third one, and she did. And again, amazing.
And when you say he, are you referring to the defendant?
That is correct.
And the person who was singing was your client, Sherry?
Yes.
During the encounter with the defendant, did you exchange contact information with the defendant?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did the defendant tell you about calling him?
Well, he said, first he said, let me help you. I said, what are you trying to do? And he gave me his number and said to keep calling. He gave me his number, told me to keep calling if I don't if you don't get me. Just keep trying until I answer.
And did you understand that what, if anything, did he say about your client singing?
He said she was amazing.
And after that day, did you, in fact, call the defendant?
Yes.
And did you discuss your client Sherry with him over the phone?
He had already met Sherry, so it was brief. We discussed her coming to Chicago in the studio.
Whose studio?
Mr. Kelly's.
And did you and Sherry, in fact, travel to Chicago to go to the defendant's studio?
Yes.
And do you recall where it was that you first met the defendant in the Chicago area?
In Olympia Fields.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 502A and 502C. Do you recognize these photos?
Yes.
And what are these photos of?
The Olympia Fields home.
And is that where the studio you went to was located?
Yes.
Now, after you and Sherry met the defendant at his Olympia Fields studio in the home, did the defendant end up working with Sherry?
Yes.
And what type of work was that?
She collaborated with him on a song for his album.
Now, at a certain period of time, did Sherry stop working with the defendant?
Yes.
And after she stopped working with the defendant, did you introduce the defendant to other artists?
After a period of time, yes.
I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 71. Without saying the person's name, do you know this person?
Yes.
And do you know this person's true first and last name?
Yes.
I move to admit Government Exhibit 71.
Any objections?
No objection.
Okay, that is in evidence.
Question?
Lost my page. I was trying to get back to it.
Government Exhibit 71 was received in evidence. We are on page 3772, now at line number 14.
18.
And may we publish?
18, sorry, 18. Go ahead,
And may we
Shahid, I'm
publish
sorry.
it? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Now I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 71A. Is this the same photo that I just showed you in Government Exhibit 71 with this individual's true first and last name?
Yes.
I move to admit Government Exhibit 71A.
Any objections?
No objection.
Okay, that's in evidence.
Government Exhibit 71A was received in evidence.
And I would ask to publish it to the jury only, please.
Okay. And for the purposes of your... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And for the purposes of your testimony here today, we are going to refer to this individual as Precious, okay?
Okay.
I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 71B. Is this the same photo in the two exhibits I just showed you with the name Precious written underneath?
Yes.
I move to admit Government Exhibit 71B.
Somebody mute. If you need to mute, mute your phone.
I did. Somebody called me. Sorry.
Oh, okay, it's okay. Go ahead.
Is it on me?
It's Kenny.
No objection.
Okay, those are in evidence.
Government Exhibit 71B was received in evidence.
Now, at some point, were you Precious's talent manager?
Yes.
What kind of artist was Precious?
She was an R&B with a little hip hop. She was a rapper and a singer. She did both.
And around when did you begin managing Precious?
2009.
How old was Precious when you began managing her?
17.
And what city were you in when you first met Precious?
Atlanta.
And when you first met Precious, who, if anyone, was she with?
Her mother.
Now, after you met Precious, what, if any, discussions did you have with the defendant about Precious?
I had a discussion with him about her talent. She was talented. Would you be interested in meeting her?
That's what you asked the defendant?
Mm-hmm. She was an artist on the rise.
And how, if at all, did the defendant respond?
He agreed.
And where did he agree to? Well, did you discuss where the defendant would meet Precious?
Yes, the studio.
Which studio?
In Olympia Fields.
After that conversation, who, if anyone, did you travel to Olympia Fields with to meet the defendant?
Precious and her mother.
And was this when Precious was still 17?
Yes.
And you testified that Precious and her mother went to Olympia Fields to see the defendant. Is that right?
Yes.
And when you went to Olympia Fields to visit with the defendant, was there any identification check for any of you when you went into the Olympia Fields property?
No.
Now, what happened after? Well, what happened when you met with the defendant, Precious and her, when you, Precious and her mother met with the defendant in Olympia Fields?
So she showcased her music for him, and then we went into the studio and we started listening to more music, just the three of us.
At any point during, what, if anything, did the defendant agree to do regarding Precious at that meeting?
He did agree to work with her. He thought that she was talented enough. Yes.
And what, if anything, did the defendant say to you, Precious and her mom, about the use of his studios by Precious?
He did agree to let us use one of the studios at Olympia Fields, and we probably started working a couple of months after that.
And when you, Precious, and her mother traveled to Olympia Fields, where did the three of you travel from?
Atlanta.
And is that where you were living at the time?
Yes.
And at the time of your travel for that first meeting between Precious and the defendant in Olympia Fields, where were Precious and her mother living at that time?
They were living in Atlanta at the time.
And at some point, did Precious begin working out of the defendant's residence in Olympia Fields from a studio there?
Yes.
And by the way, where was Precious and her mother? Where were they originally from?
Chicago.
And at some point when Precious began working with the studio in Olympia Fields, out of the studio in Olympia Fields, where, if anywhere, did she stay?
At a hotel.
At a hotel where?
In probably like 2 miles from the studio.
From the Olympia Fields studio?
Yes.
And who paid for the hotel Precious stayed in?
I believe Mr. McDavid.
And do you know Mr. McDavid's full name?
CHERYL McDavid.
And what, if any, connection to the defendant did CHERYL McDavid have at the time?
His manager.
Now, you testified earlier that Precious and her mom were living in Atlanta when you met them, and when you initially went to meet to introduce Precious to the defendant in the in Olympia Fields, correct?
Correct.
Continue.
And you also testified she and her mother were originally from Chicago, correct?
Correct.
At some point, did Precious's mom move back to Chicago?
Yes.
And was this while Precious was working with the defendant at his studios?
Yes.
And when that happened, did Precious remain staying at the hotel near the Olympia Fields residence?
Yes.
Now, you indicated you were based in Atlanta at the time, correct?
Correct.
And did you continue to manage Precious while she was working at the Olympia Fields studio?
Yes.
And how was it that you would do that from Atlanta?
I would just come in and out of the city. I didn't stay there.
So you would travel from Atlanta?
I would travel from Atlanta to Chicago, in and out of the city.
And when you traveled in and out of Chicago, do you go to the defendant's Olympia Fields residence?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 72. Without saying the person's name, do you recognize this person?
Question.
Yes.
We're on
What?
page
377996.
Oh, exhibit published to witness only.
Yes.
And have you met this person?
Yes.
And do you know this person's first and last name?
Yes.
I am showing the witness and the jury only what's been marked for identification, what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 72, jury only.
Exhibit published to jury only.
Is this the same photo I just showed you with this individual's true first and last name?
Yes.
And did this individual go by the nickname V?
Yes.
I am showing you what's marked for identification as Government Exhibit 72B. Is this the same person as I just showed you with the nickname V underneath?
Yes.
I move to admit Government Exhibit 72B.
No objection.
That's in evidence.
Government Exhibit 72B received in evidence.
Yes.
And may
Oh,
we
I'm
publish it, please?
Yes.
Exhibit published.
And for the purposes of your testimony here today, we will refer to this person as V, okay?
Okay.
And how do you know V?
I met V in Atlanta. We were looking for some songwriters for Precious's project, and I interviewed about 3 or 4. She was pretty on the rise. She was pretty on the rise songwriter there, and she has some placement already. I met her. She was amazing, and I figured that she would be great for this project.
And when you say Precious's project, what are you referring to?
We were working in the studio on Precious's album, her project.
And which studios?
Olympia Field.
The defendant studios.
Yes.
And after you met V, did you hire her? What did you do after you met V?
After I met her, she sent probably about 16 songs. They were all good. I shared a little bit about, her music, her songwriting ability to Mr. Kelly. She came, she flew out, and she and Precious met, and they started writing together immediately.
And when you say she came, did V come from Atlanta to Chicago?
She flew from Atlanta to Chicago, yes.
And how old was V at that time? That she began working with Precious as a songwriter?
19.
And after you hired V, where, if anywhere, did she move to?
Chicago.
And where did she stay in Chicago?
Initially, she was at the same hotel, I believe.
The same hotel as who?
As Precious initially. And at a later time, she was living, I believe that she started living at Olympia Field or the studio. I'm not sure exactly. Can it?
Yes. I'm going to add, hold on. Somebody just sent me a message that Dana reading Robert Keller transcripts. He just stole this transcript. This dude, man.
Wow.
All right.
Take it off of it.
That's crazy. I'm going to ask that if it's not sure, that it be stricken. Hold on.
You don't know where she was living?
Hold on. I'm going to ask that if she's not sure, that it be stricken.
You don't know where she was living?
Not initially.
I think you testified initially that she was at the hotel. Is that right?
Initially, she was at the hotel, but permanently, initially, she was at the same hotel as Precious.
Are you, dang, I can't even see that word. Are you aware of when she moved someplace else?
At one point in time, she actually moved to one of the studios, I believe.
All right.
Yes.
Now, you testified earlier that Precious was working on a project or album while at Olympia Fields. Is that right?
Yes.
At some point, did you learn that Precious stopped working with the defendant at his studios?
Yes.
And as her manager, were you involved in that decision?
No.
Was it an abrupt decision?
Yes.
And without telling me or us what specifically you learned, did you speak with Precious about her having stopped working with the defendant?
At some point, yes.
And at some point after speaking with Precious, did you speak with the defendant about the fact that Precious had left?
Yes.
And was that initially over the phone?
Yes.
And what do you recall about that conversation with the defendant?
It was all of a sudden. He told me that I needed to come to Chicago. And when she left, it was just everything happened so fast. He told me that she was trying to file a lawsuit and I needed to pick a team.
Now, you testified he told you you needed to come to Chicago. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And where were you at the time when you got the phone call?
In Atlanta.
And did you, in fact, shortly thereafter, fly from Atlanta to Chicago?
Yes.
And where did you go after arriving in Chicago?
To Olympia Fields, to the studio.
What happened when you got to Olympia Fields?
So when I got there, we were talking about what could possibly be going on with Precious. And could you repeat that, please?
When you say we talked, who is we in that sentence?
Mr. Kelly and I.
And what did Mr. Kelly tell you at that time?
Well, he explained to me that Precious had filed a lawsuit, and it was right around him going to the World Cup. It was important. He told me again that I needed to pick a team, and generally in these types of situations, people come up missing.
Oh my goodness.
That's what the defendant. That's what the defendant told you, that people come up missing?
Yes.
And
Wow.
you said, and he said that to you after you said you needed to pick a team?
Yes.
And what did you understand him to mean by you needed to pick a team?
Meaning either Team Precious or Team Mr. Kelly.
Did the defendant say anything to you about what the potential lawsuit was about?
Something along the lines of sexual harassment.
You said that this was around the time that the defendant was going to the World Cup?
Yes.
And are you talking about the International FIFA Soccer World Cup?
Yes.
And was the defendant scheduled to perform at the World Cup that year?
Yes.
Now, when you first started the conversation with the defendant, do you recall where in the Olympia Fields residence you were?
We started the conversation in the studio.
And at a certain point, did the conversation with the defendant move from the studio to another location?
Yeah, to the pool area.
And is that an indoor pool area?
Yes.
And how did that move come about, if you recall?
I don't. I don't recall.
Now, when the defendant told you to pick a team and told you that people come up missing in these circumstances, what did you understand the defendant to mean when he said that to you?
I don't recall.
How did you take that statement?
I took it as a threat.
After that happened, or how, if at all, did that conversation end?
So after that, at some point, Mr. Arnold, we go back inside, and I went up to the pool area, and there was a pool table area, And it's late. And at some point, Mr. Arnold comes and he knocks at the door, tells me to come downstairs. And I get in the car and we drive downtown at some point.
So let me stop you for a moment. You said you went to an area after the conversation with the defendant. You went to an area in the Olympia Fields residence with a pool table. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did you go there, or who, if anyone, suggested that you go there?
Mr. Kelly.
And what, if anything, did he suggest did you do there?
Well, I believe he was working or just waiting there. It was late. And then Tom came in.
And about how long after the conversation with the defendant did Tom come in?
It was a few hours. It wasn't right away. It was a few hours.
And you mentioned a Tom and a Mr. Arnold. Are those the same people that you're referring to?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as a government exhibit 31.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Who is that?
Tom Arnold.
And that's the person that
Yes.
came after a couple of hours after you talked to the defendant.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Who is Tom Arnold to the defendant at the time?
I understood him to be his assistant.
And you testified, well, what, if anything, did Tom Arnold say to you when he came in the room?
He basically said that.
Objection.
Sustained.
Where, if anywhere, did you go after Tom Arnold came in the room?
I went to the car that was parked and he drove me downtown.
And who is he?
Mr. Arnold.
And when you got in the car, did you know where you were going specifically or for what purpose?
No.
And where did Tom Arnold take you?
To Mr. Ed Jensen's office downtown.
Downtown Chicago?
Yes.
And what happened after you arrived at the building where the office was located?
So when we arrived at the building, Mr. Arnold got me out the car. He opened the door, pushed an elevator door, and up the floor. And Mr. Jensen greeted me on the floor.
After you got out of the elevator?
After I got out of the elevator.
And who did you understand Ed Jensen to be?
Mr. Kelly's lawyer.
After greeting you, where, if anywhere, did you go in that office?
We went to his office.
Mr. Jensen's office?
That's correct.
And what happened in Mr. Jensen's office?
Well, he explained that there was a lawsuit on the table and he asked me several questions. And
did he reference who this lawsuit or potential lawsuit pertained to?
Yes.
And who was that?
Precious.
And while you were in Mr. Jensen's office, did he present you with documents?
Yes.
What document did he present you with?
It was some form of an affidavit.
And was it already written when you entered the office?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did he ask you to do with respect to that document?
There were like about 4, maybe 5 questions. They were yes or no, and he asked me to sign it.
Were the questions already answered when he asked you to sign it?
No.
What do you recall about, well, did you read the affidavit before you signed it?
No.
Did you read any part of it before you signed it?
Maybe a couple of questions, yes.
And do you recall anything about what was in the document?
The couple of questions that I do recall reading were, did I ever see Mr. Kelly give her alcohol, or did I ever see them performing sex?
And when you say her, are you referring to Precious?
Yes.
And when you say them, are you referring to the defendant and Precious?
Yes.
Now, was this a typed document?
It was typed, yes.
And I think you testified that these were yes or no questions.
Yes.
Am I echoing?
Yeah, somebody echo.
Somebody's phone's.
Y'all, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's okay. I thought it was me. Did you write anything on the document other than signing it?
No.
Okay. So were the
D,
questions
hold on.
already
Give
answered?
it time. Mute your phone, D, when you're not coming in. We're hearing everything in the background. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so were the questions already answered?
They weren't already answered. No, they were just already typed.
Okay, but you did not provide answers to the questions.
I don't recall.
Diva time.
She's muted, I think.
Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, and so if a person were filling that out, filling that out, I went too far.
There's some feedback.
Yeah, it's feedback. Somebody got a device up or something. We're at 37 at the top.
37 what?
Where you were reading?
3791.
Okay. I'm still unclear about the affidavit. When you say there were yes or no questions, was it a stipulation? I mean, was it a situation that you would check in the yes or no box or circle a yes or no? Do you recall?
I don't recall. It was a circle yes. The question would be, did you see Mr. Kelly give her alcohol, yes or no?
Okay. And so if a person were filling that out, the person would circle one or two, circle one of those two answers.
Diva time, the echo coming from you.
Okay, hold on, y'all. And I don't know why. Is it still echoing?
Yeah.
Okay, look, let me leave and let somebody else do court. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want it to be echoing.
I mean, it's not that bad. It seems like when you took that call, that's when maybe something. I think it's not horrible.
Is it still doing it? Yeah, it's still doing it. I hear it myself.
Maybe if you close it out and then come back in.
Let me do that. Let me leave and come back. Hold on.
All right.
Because I'm on mute.
Man.
So they did prove that Geronda turned in that T-shirt to the attorneys, and that the attorneys had it all those years and then turned it over to law enforcement in Chicago, because I think someone was trying to say Geronda jumped over the wall or something. Went in there and stole
she jumped
something.
over the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got an observation too. I've been listening to. No, that sounds like I got it back. I've been listening to the book reading his autobiography.
Yeah, you got an echo question.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna leave and come back out. Let me come back in.
Is it me or the way that this read? Did Precious come down? She's living in a hotel. Her mother moves as well to Chicago, and her mother's living somewhere else. But Precious is still living in a hotel by herself. Is that the way that read to y'all?
At 17, yeah.
Yeah, that seemed extremely bizarre. Now, again, I don't do the whole parent thing. I'm not on that argument. But I wonder how it came to be that she was convinced, or the parents were convinced, to let this child live over in a hotel by herself.
By yourself, right.
And then she's living wherever the parent is living. Because to me, if nothing else, move me with my child. Now I'm sure, as we saw in this testimony, that he was very clever, probably gave all kinds of excuses. She need to be here. She need to focus or whatever. And then, of course, he works at all hours of the night. But I just think it is absolutely outrageous. There is nothing that I could have done at 17 that could have convinced my mother to say, I will live up the street here.
No.
But you can stay in this hotel. Like, I just think
my
that's
folks weren't
outrageous.
going.
Exactly. And there ain't nowhere in the world I would have left my kids in a hotel by themselves at 17.
Ain't no way.
First of all, that's illegal. And my parents wouldn't have let me stay in a hotel at 17 years old by myself.
I just can't imagine, and we've seen and heard how much manipulation, has taken place. So no telling what ridiculous nonsense he put out there as a reason. And of course, this mother is probably thinking that she's doing whatever's necessary to try to help her child go through that creative process, but still.
He probably told her CHERYL was going to watch her, or somebody else was going to watch her.
Exactly.
All right. If y'all want to go ahead, Diva Time, you back.
Okay, I am still unclear about the affidavit. When you say there were yes or no questions, was it a situation where that you would check in the yes or no box or circle a yes or no? Do you recall?
I don't recall. It was circled yes. The question would be, did you see Mr. Kelly give her alcohol? Yes or no?
Okay. And so if a person were filling that out, the person would circle one or of those two answers. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you recall if ever the circle ends? Look, do you recall if you ever circled any of the answers?
I don't recall, but no, I don't recall.
Okay.
One way or the other, I don't recall.
Now, did you sign the document?
I did.
And did you, when you left Mr. Ginson's office that day, did you have a copy of the document with you?
No.
And where, if anywhere, did you go after signing the affidavit and leaving Mr. Ginson's office that day?
To the airport.
And where did you go from there?
Back to Atlanta.
And did you speak with, did a period of time pass after that when you did not have communication with either Precious or the defendant?
Yes.
And now, without telling me what you learned, at some point, did you later learn that Precious's legal claims against the defendant were resolved in some way?
Yes.
Now, I want to direct your attention to approximately 2013. Was that now several years after the incident, after the events you described in Mr. Jensen's office?
Yes.
And in approximately 2013, did you reconnect with the defendant sometime during that year?
Yes.
And what were you doing for work at that time?
I was an executive assistant for Devin Stevens.
And who was Devin Stevens? What type of work did he do?
He's a music mogul, entertainment manager, producer in Atlanta.
And you testified you were Mr. Stevens' executive assistant?
Yes.
And were you on his payroll at that time?
Yes.
And what, if anything, withdrawn? How was it that you ended up reconnecting with the defendant sometime in 2013?
Divine and I were having a discussion about doing something different. And Divine thought that Robert would be a I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly would be a perfect candidate. He felt like we could really get him off the bench. His exact words,
What do you mean, get him off the bench?
meaning that he wasn't as active as normal
Mean in the music business?
in the music business. Yes,
And at some point, well, who, if anyone, after you and Divine have that, Mr. Stevens have that conversation, who, if anyone, or how did you go about on your, how, if at all, did you reach out to the defendant?
there was a mutual contact that Divine and Mr. Kelly knew, and they met at his home, and we were all there. They hit it off, and we went to work.
And after that, what type of work did Divine Stevens, and with you as his executive assistant, what type of work did you do with respect to the defendant?
I don't understand the question.
I will rephrase it. So you testified that there was a meeting at a house of a mutual friend of Mr. Stevens and the defendant.
Yes,
And that they hit it off there. Is that right?
yes,
And after? And at the meeting or after the meeting, did Mr. Stevens and you begin working with the defendant?
yes.
And in what capacity, what type of work was Mr. Stevens doing with the defendant at that time?
Management.
And you were also working on that as Mr. Stevens' executive assistant.
That's correct. Yes.
And during that course of time, what types of things that you and Mr. Stevens work on?
So we worked on touring, putting together a tour for Mr. Kelly. We worked on an album for Mr. Kelly, and that kind of stuff is how we started.
And what, if any, use of Mr. Stevens' home did the defendant have at that time?
Mr. Stevens built a studio in his home specifically for Mr. Kelly.
And did the defendant use that studio?
Yes.
Did Mr. Stevens' home also have a basketball court? Of course.
Yes.
And did defendant use that basketball court?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did you transition from being on Mr. Stevens' payroll as his executive assistant to working exclusively for the defendant?
Yes.
And in what capacity did you work for the defendant?
I don't understand the question.
What kind of work did you do for the defendant after you stopped being on Mr. Stevens' payroll?
Oh, so I managed his calendar. I worked on all the projects alongside Mr. Stevens. We worked on the album. We worked on with songwriters. We put tours together. I was right there alongside Divine, working just as aggressive as he was.
Now what, if any role, did Mr. Stevens have with respect to hiring any staff for the defendant?
We were challenged to get an attorney or get a lawyer. Mr. Kelly wanted a new lawyer based in Chicago, so we hired a stylist, and that was immediate.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 44. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry. And who is that?
Linda Minch.
R.I.P. Is that the lawyer that you and Mr. Stevens helped hire?
Wait, I think you skipped the line 9.
Uh-oh. Sorry. And was she Mr. Kelly's lawyer at that time?
She was Mr. Kelly.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Am I supposed to say who is Linda Minch?
Yeah, that's you.
Sorry, I messed up. I dropped the phone. And
You good? You good?
You good?
We all have mixed up today.
Who is Linda Minch?
She was Mr. Kelly's lawyer at the time.
Is that the lawyer that you and Mr. Stevens helped to hire?
Yes.
And was she, what type of lawyer was she?
An entertainment lawyer?
Did Linda Minch, did she hire any staff for the defendant?
Yes.
Who did she hire?
She hired a bookkeeper.
What was the bookkeeper's name?
Joan Sullivan.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 37.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Who is that?
Joan Sullivan.
The bookkeeper?
Yes.
And you mentioned you and Mr. Stevens helped to hire a stylist. Is that right?
Yes.
Who was the stylist you hired?
Cash Howard.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 86.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who is that?
Cash Howard.
The stylist?
Yes.
And you mentioned Joan Sullivan, the bookkeeper. What, if any, role? What was Joan Sullivan's role? What was she hired to do?
She was hired to oversee the books, oversee most of the financials, and she worked very close with Linda. So I don't know exactly what her role was, but it started as a bookkeeper.
After the attorney Linda Minch came on board, what, if any, company was created?
RSK Enterprise.
And what does RSK stand for?
Robert Sylvester Kelly Enterprises.
Boom.
And around when was RSK Enterprises created?
Early 2014.
And prior to the creation of RSK Enterprises, are you aware of any companies that the defendant was associated with?
Yes, Bass Productions.
Bass Productions?
Bass Productions, sorry.
To your knowledge, what, if anything, if any involvement did Daryl David have in Bass Productions?
I don't recall.
Now, when you and Mr. Stevens began working with the defendant in 2013, what, if any, role did Daryl David have at that time?
I don't believe that he was actively involved.
What, if anything, did the defendant say to you regarding his relationship with Daryl David at that time?
We didn't discuss Mr. McDavid.
Now, after you began working, you and Mr. Stevens began working with the defendant. At some point in 2013, what, if anything, changed about the defendant's living situation after you began working with him?
He eventually moved to Atlanta.
And initially, where was the defendant staying in Atlanta?
Hotels.
And did that change at some point?
Yes.
How did that change?
So Divine and I thought that the hotel expenses was just astronomical with that much of a team. So there was part-time, he was at Divine's place, and there were a couple of condos in Atlanta and ultimately a home there.
And did the defendant lease or buy the home there, if you know?
Lease.
And do you recall where the home was located?
It was in Duluth, Georgia.
Do you recall the address or the street?
I think it was 405 Old Homestead Road.
And you mentioned that the hotel bills were what you testified, what you believe were astronomical when the defendant was initially staying at hotels in Atlanta. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you said about the number of people that were traveling with him. Is that right?
Correct.
Who, if anyone, traveled with the defendant when he came to Atlanta? And I should say that to the extent you mention any girlfriends, please just use first names.
His uncle, June Brown, I believe his nephew, Van, And another one that I can't remember the name, security.
And did his assistants travel with the defendant that you recall?
There was Michelle Adams, Diana, and I can't remember her last name.
All right. So starting with government exhibit 3. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who is that?
June Brown.
And what, if any, role did, and I think you just testified that was one of the people that traveled with the defendant.
Yes, correct.
And what, if any, role did June Brown have?
He was Mr. Kelly's assistant.
I'm showing you what's in evidence is government exhibit 4. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Who is that?
Junebug.
And do you know Junebug's real name?
No, I don't.
And what, if any, role did Junebug have with the defendant?
I believe he was an assistant.
And I think you testified earlier, was he also the defendant's uncle?
That's correct. Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as government exhibit 5. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who was that?
Van.
And what, if any, role did Van have with the defendant?
I don't know exactly what his role was.
And I think you testified earlier that Van was the defendant's nephew. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as government exhibit 36. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who is that?
Diana.
And what, if any, role did Diana have with respect to the defendant?
Personal assistant or the house assistant.
Now, apart from employees and family members, did any women travel with the defendant to Atlanta as well?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you a few photos.
It's published.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as government exhibit 69B. Without saying, is the name of this person, do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Do you know her full name without saying it?
Yes.
And what is her first name only?
Dominique.
And is she one of the women that traveled with the defendant to Atlanta?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence is a government exhibit 52B.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And without saying, well, do you know a nickname that this person used?
Yes.
And what was that nickname?
Juice.
And was Juice one of the women who traveled with the defendant to Atlanta?
Yes.
Did you have an occasion to meet Juice's mother?
One occasion.
I'm showing the witness what's been marked for identification as government exhibit 53.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize the individual in this photograph?
Yes.
And who is this?
Her mother, Juice's mother.
I move to admit government exhibit 53.
No objection.
That's in evidence.
Government exhibit 53 received in evidence.
Stop right there. Do y'all need to take a break, ladies? I know y'all been on here going for 2 hours. Y'all need to take a 5-minute break, go use the bathroom, get something to drink, anything like that, or y'all want to go a little bit longer?
I'm good.
Break or I could go. It doesn't matter to me. Y'all do what y'all want. I'm here.
Okay, I want to be courteous. If we can continue, let's keep going. All right, go ahead.
May we publish it, please?
Yes.
Question? I'm sorry, I threw you off. My bad. We're at the top of 3804, line 10.
Exhibit published.
And I'm showing you what's been marked for what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 72B. This is the individual you previously testified about, the songwriter V, correct?
Yes.
Was she one of the women that traveled with the defendant to Atlanta?
Yes.
Now I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 8.
Exhibit published.
Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who do you recognize that to be?
Gerald Jones.
And did he go by any nicknames?
Blackie.
And what, if any, relationship to the defendant did Blackie have?
He was an acting manager.
In what time period?
During 2013.
Now, you testified earlier that there was a period of time where you transitioned to working basically exclusively as a defendant's executive assistant. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall around when that was?
Early 2014, the latter part of 2013. Earlier part of 2014.
And as once you transitioned to that role, did you have any responsibilities regarding making travel arrangements for the defendant's guests?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
After you transitioned to working as a defendant's executive assistant, did you have any responsibilities with respect to making travel arrangements for the defendant's guests?
Yes.
And what did that entail?
Could you?
Sure. What did you do with respect to making travel arrangements?
Are you asking how would it come about, or what was the process of doing it?
Well, both.
Okay. So I would get a text message from a person and a potential traveler to initiate the travel conversation via text.
And what, if anything, would you do after getting the initial text from a potential traveler?
I would ask for their information, their name, date of birth, departure city.
And what, if anything, would you do after that?
I would get approved to book from Mr. Kelly.
And if you, in fact, received approval for booking, how did you go about doing that?
In most instances, we would just use the travel company, the preferred travel. And if it was after hours or later something that needed to happen urgent and I couldn't reach them, then we would do, I would do it.
And what, if any, credit card would you use in those circumstances?
The company credit card.
The company credit card.
Yes.
And other than you, are you aware of anyone else who had the company credit card?
Linda Mitch and Joan Sullivan.
And when you say company credit card, are you referring to RKelly Enterprises?
Yes.
And did you get such requests from potential travelers often via text?
Yes.
And you mentioned you often use preferred travel to make the arrangements. Is that right?
Correct.
And did preferred travel, that was the company RKelly Enterprises used regularly?
Correct.
And did they have RKelly debit or credit cards on file?
Yes.
Now, are you familiar with the Black Panties tour?
Yes.
And whose tour was that? What artist did the Black Panties tour?
Mr. Kelly.
And around when did the tour take place, if you recall?
I don't recall exactly when.
Did you ever travel as part of that tour?
Yes.
And did you get from city to city on the tour?
I flew.
And how did the defendant travel from city to city on the tour?
On a tour bus.
After the Black Planet tour, where were the series of one-off? Were there a series of one-off performance dates that the defendant did?
Yes.
And can you just explain to the jury what that means, a one-off performance?
There was initially in the industry called spot dates. And they're random dates that a booking agent would book. And in some instances, it could be like near a city that he was already in or just left, but they're spot dates. So they're not like 5 dates in a row. It's just spot dates.
And did the defendant have certain spot dates or concert dates in 2015?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 75. Without saying the person's name, do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And do you know the person's first and last name?
Yes.
I'm showing the witness and the jury only what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 75A.
Exhibit published to the jury.
All right. Is this a photo, the same photo with this person's true first and last name underneath?
Yes.
And I'm showing the witness, I'm showing everybody what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 75B. For the purposes of your testimony today, we're going to refer to this person as Jane, okay?
Okay.
Now, about when did you first become aware of Jane?
It was April 2015.
And how did you become aware of her?
I received a text from her.
And what was the text message about?
Mr. Kelly gave her my number. She text messaged me to book travel.
And I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 233C. Jury only, please. I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 233B. Are these the text messages you reference between you and Jane?
Yes.
And is the first one dated April 28th, 2015? That an outgoing message from you to Jane? From Jane to you?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
And in response, well, she gives you her name and you say that she's in Orlando, Florida currently. And then in response, you say, okay, please send me your date of birth for air travel and then travel tomorrow or ?
Yes.
And did she then send you her date of birth, December 30th, 1997, and say, yes, a flight for tomorrow?
Yes.
And just looking down on the text messages, did you then, after you received that information from Jane, what did you do?
So after I received that information, I ran it to Mr. Kelly to approve it.
And did he?
I ran it by Mr. Kelly to approve it. Sorry.
And did he, in fact, approve it?
Yes, he did.
And after he approved it, did you make travel arrangements for Jane to travel?
Yes, I did.
And just looking back at Government Exhibit 233C, is the last text message a text message from you to Jane confirming she's on American Airlines flight that departs Orlando at 7 a.m. to arrive in Los Angeles?
Yes.
And you sent her the confirmation number?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did you meet Jane in person?
Yes.
And do you recall where it was that you met Jane in person?
The Mandalay Bay in Vegas, Las Vegas.
And what, if anything, was the defendant doing in Las Vegas at the time?
A show.
And where physically did you meet Jane in Las Vegas?
In the lobby of Mandalay Bay.
And what was she doing at that time?
I'm sorry?
What was Jane doing when you met her in the lobby at that time?
What was she doing?
Well, let me rephrase the question. What was the purpose of you meeting her in the lobby at that time?
Oh, she was checking into her hotel to make sure that I was there, to make sure everything went smooth through the check-in.
And do you recall whether Jane attended the show in Las Vegas?
Yes,
Yes, she attended.
yes,
Now I'm showing you what's in evidence is Government Exhibit 233G. Okay, that can be published to everyone.
Exhibit published to the jury.
Are these text messages between you and Jane from where she was in Las Vegas in 2015?
yes,
And are these text messages dated May 3rd, 2015?
yes,
Now the first text message, 5879. That's on this exhibit. Is that a message you received from Jane that said, "Do you know where the closest mall is?"
yes,
And then you provided her with some information, correct?
yes,
And then she also asked how she could get to the mall, McDonald's and Western Union, correct?
correct.
And then your response is after that, you asked her what time. And she responds, now, anytime soon, if possible. And then you respond, okay, stand by. Now, just going down a little bit, did you inform her that there were some issues with getting a car service? Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And I want to focus on the text message 5837. That's a text message from you to Jane that states, trying to figure it out, is Mr. Kelly okay with you going out of the room? It's very hectic out. And then Jane responds, I didn't ask him, and if you can't get it, it's fine. I'll just chill inside because the taxi lines are hectic. Thanks for your help. And then you respond, okay, yeah, we will need to make sure it's okay. It's just very, very hectic. I can get McDonald's to you, no problem. When you said you will need to make sure it's okay, what were you referring to there?
What I meant by that was that she would need to get it okay for Mr. Kelly.
And how did you know that she would need to get an okay from Mr. Kelly?
I don't understand that question.
When you were working for the defendant as his executive assistant, were there certain rules in place?
Yes.
And what, if any, rules were in place in regarding a situation like the one you just looked at in the text messages?
Mr. Kelly would have to approve it.
Now, I would like to direct your attention to July of 2015. Did you travel to see the defendant perform in Connecticut around that time?
Yes.
And do you recall where the defendant was performing in Connecticut on July 17th or July 15th?
It was a casino.
And using first names only, for the pseudonym we just went through, did any female guest also arrive to Connecticut to see the defendant?
Yes.
And using first name only or the pseudonym Jane, who do you recall? What female guests do you recall traveling to Connecticut?
Jane, Joycelyn, and Christy Lee.
I'm showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 78. Do you recognize this person and using first names only?
Yes.
And who is it?
Joycelyn.
Now, in Connecticut, when the defendant was performing, what you testified the defendant was performing at a casino, is that right?
Correct.
And do you recall approximately how many shows he was doing at that casino?
I believe it was 3 nights, 2 or 3 nights.
And to the best of your recollections, were there any shows in between the shows in Connecticut?
New Jersey.
There was a show in New Jersey?
Yes.
Now, I want to direct your attention to the final show in Connecticut. First of all, were you at that show?
Yes.
And after the show, where were you physically?
In the dressing room area.
And who, if anyone else, was in the dressing room area?
Everyone was in there. The security that was there. I believe the majority of the staff was there.
And was a defendant there?
Yes.
And what happened? Well, while you were in the dressing room, did the defendant ask you to do anything?
I don't understand the question.
While you were after the show in Connecticut, you said you testified you were in the dressing room. The defendant was there and lots of other people were there. Is that right?
Yes.
At some point, did the defendant, while you were in that room, did the defendant ask you to make sure someone else was in the room?
Yes, to make sure that his guests were.
And which, and using pseudonyms, which guest was that?
Jane.
And did you take steps to have Jane come to the room?
Yes.
And what, if any, understanding did you have about where Jane was coming from to get to the dressing room?
She would have been coming from inside of that particular hotel. There was a pit, I believe it was. It's about the...
Okay. A pit, meaning?
She was...
What do you mean by pit?
An open area where guests of the show will stand just to see the show.
So an area to watch the show.
Yeah, close to the stage, yes.
Close to the stage. Okay. And if at all, would Jane get from, and how, if at all, would Jane get from the pit area to the dressing room?
Someone had to escort her back.
And what do you mean by that?
Someone, a team member, they would have to walk out to the area and walk her back past security to get backstage.
And did Jane end up coming to the dressing room?
Yes.
And you testified earlier that there were multiple people in the dressing room before Jane arrived, correct?
Yes.
And did that include men and women?
Yes.
And what, if anything, happened regarding the composition of the people who were in the dressing room once Jane arrived?
Well, their dinner was served prior to that, so once she arrived, everyone sort of exited through, the men.
The men exited.
Yes.
And do you know why that was?
Repeat the question.
Do you know why the men exited the room when Jane came in?
Generally, when Mr. Kelly's guests...
Objection.
Overruled.
You can answer.
Generally, when Mr. Kelly's guests entered the room, most of the men they would leave the room.
And why is that?
Why?
Objection.
Overruled. It's based on your observations in working there.
In my observation, yes.
And based on working there, had you learned what, if any, protocols did the defendant have about men being in the room when his female guests were there?
It wasn't acceptable.
Now, after the men left the room, who was left in the dressing room?
Myself, the stylist, Mr. Kelly, and Jane.
And when you say the stylist, are you referring to Cash Howard?
Yes.
And at some point, did Cash Howard leave the room?
Yes.
And after that, who remained in the room?
Myself, Mr. Kelly, and Jane.
And what, if any, discussions were you having with the defendant when it was just you, the defendant, and Jane in the dressing room?
So we were having a casual conversation about the show, and we talked about Cash's birthday, getting her a gift, and we was just really having a casual conversation about work.
And where, if you recall, where in the room was the defendant situated at the time of this conversation?
She was sitting
The defendant. Where was the defendant situated?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
He was sitting on sort of a huge ottoman.
And how was he sitting on the ottoman?
He was laying back on it with his hands behind his head there.
And where, if anywhere, were you sitting?
I was sitting on the opposite side of it.
And where, if anywhere, do you recall Jane was during this conversation?
She was sitting in a chair right across, right there in front of it.
And now, did Jane participate in the conversation that you and the defendant were having about the show?
No.
Was that unusual for her not to participate?
No. No.
And other than receiving text messages from Jane, did you generally speak to her?
No.
And why didn't you speak to her?
Because we weren't allowed to commingle with his guests.
Now, after the conversation that you had about the show with the defendant, what, if anything, happened?
Could you elaborate?
Sure. You testified you had a conversation about the show. Is that right?
Objection. That's not her testimony.
Overruled. The question really is just what happened next.
Okay.
While you were in the room.
Okay. So we were having a conversation, very casual, very normal. The Jane sitting right across, and she gets up and she moves a little bit closer to Mr. Kelly. And
did you see what, if anything, prompted Jane to get up and move closer?
No.
What happened next?
So then she got a little closer, and we were kind of wrapped with the conversation, and we were having in.
What do you mean by wrapped?
Like we were discussing cool things about the show and Cash's birthday, and when she started to move in a little closer to Mr. Kelly, I that was kind of my cue to just leave.
Okay, and you used the word wrapped. Do you mean the conversation was finishing up?
Yeah, we were finishing up, yes.
And then after Jane moved closer to the defendant, what did you see?
Well, I saw her touch his leg, sort of like a massage motion.
And what did you see after that?
And then after that, she got a little closer, and I already started gathering my things to leave. I just saw her moving closer.
What part of her body did you see moving closer, and to whom?
Time.
She was all over him. Didn't get out the room fast enough.
That's all I gotta say. Man act.
No, just say, I gather my things. I got the hello.
Right.
So we're gonna start back at 38:23. Somebody please put that in the chat. 38:23. 38:23. Oh my gosh, y'all.
Man act violations.
Man.
It absolutely was. That was where the man
Yep.
act for ass
Man
was.
act. Man act. That's why it exists. Y'all want to know why they got it? That's why. Can't do that with no 17-year-old.
Right. And what's her name that I was, whoever I was. Cheryl Mack. She could not say, she did not know their age, because you definitely got to give them birth for an airline ticket.
Yep.
They had to tell them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for all y'all RKelly supporters out there that want to know why he was convicted, there's a law called the Mann Act. And if you don't know this law, I strongly suggest you go on Diva Divine Life. She's doing a whole series on it. Because you can get charged with this. It's a real law.
Look it up. That's the best thing.
Please get on top of it. Parents, teach your sons, teach your grown 18, 20, 25 year old sons, teach them about the Man Act. They start transporting girls across state lines, they going to jail.
Hey, Kelly Rogers. Hey, Miss Rogers. Miss Rogers in the house, y'all.
Hi, Miss Rogers.
Hello.
Good to see you today.
Man, listen, y'all. So look, so it's 5:41. If y'all want to come back tonight, we can, because it's about to get real juicy.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
it
That's why
is.
I like starting earlier because I know it probably kind of gives you an opportunity to come back.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how about we do this? Let's how about we either come back at, let's do either 8:30 or let's do 8 or 8:30. Which one y'all want to do? 8 or 8:30?
8:30.
Type
I
it in
said,
the chat. 8 or 8:30. Majority rules.
and
8
I
or 8:30.
yeah, I was making an observation earlier before we started echoing. Going back to that FIFA or FIFA World Cup situation, I was listening in on his autobiography, Solar Coaster read, and I'm just amazed at, for a person who, has been proven to not be able to read and write, but he's self-made. He, came from nothing and he just blew up out of nowhere. He gets all these opportunities to do this kind of Pony Express, let me stay under the radar, even after his 2008 um
Trial.
proceeding. Yeah, trial. And he still continued.
Yeah, he didn't learn no lesson.
He
That's why
still
he got to be under the jail now.
he still continued to like use people. He still continued to isolate, you know, he could. He was using the Uber. He was doing all these extra things and had 1,000, probably over 1,000 hands of doing his dirty work. And yeah,
Yeah,
everybody is not clean, but it's like you having to him having to approve birth dates on the travel arrangements, because you have to put in the name, you got to put in the date of birth and all this extra stuff, and then you got this one on hold, but then you got two or three other more, and and then I feel like um when he started when it was said that the living arrangements became astronomical, it's like, yeah, this was kind of, when the money's wrapping up and you can't keep up with all of the different situations that's going on. And it made me think about the quote that cheating is the rich man's sport, and not being able to keep up, well, trying to keep up with the expenses and this girlfriend and this staff and whatever. And it's like, this man knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't give a rat's tail about who was involved, who age was what. Going back to the autobiography read that during the FIFA World Cup is, if I'm not mistaken, that's when he met what's the man? Was it Gandhi? I think, was it Gandhi or Nelson Mandela? One of the people over there in Africa. And in the autobiography, it describes like, what he was doing. He was having all these spiritual things he was saying in the book, and it's like, like RKelly. Oh my gosh! I mean,
he's a narcissist. That's what he is.
just a waste of talent, a waste of an individual. And he's not the first, and he won't be the last. But God dang, Kelly, God, wait.
Let me jump in real quick. Thank you to Miss Garrido. And thank you to Tanya. So we're now we only 323 short, y'all, from getting day 21 and 23. I'm still waiting on to hear back from the court report on day 22. Then we'll have everything we need. Also, I am still working on getting an interview with Javante. Me and her got to chop it up this week so we can talk. But I'm still working on it. I know somebody said, can you get more victims in? And Nakia Harris, thank you so much. The way y'all are reading the transcripts and interacting and reacting to them are amazing. This makes us feel as if we are in a courtroom. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nika.
What Noonie do? Noonie said, congratulations. How far along? Somebody, hold up. Noonie said she's pregnant. Well, congratulations, Noonie.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Take RKelly and give us Tupac back. Just put in. So that brings us down to, now we're down to 270, y'all. So as everybody pitches in, we will get what we need to get to. We're now only 270 short from getting those 2 days. So look, y'all, we're gonna come back tonight at 8 o'clock. Y'all be here, be ready to rock and roll. We about to get into the meat and potatoes of this case, and then we're gonna be really close to getting into the first day of the defense's mechanic, and Becca. Yeah, sure, Judge.
Yeah, can I just say I'm loving the I think it's both of them are females, right? Miss Geddes and Miss Shahada or whoever.
Shahida, yeah.
Shahida, I'm loving them. I'm loving them.
Thank you so much, Miss McCampbell. All right, we down to 260, y'all. We down to 260. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So y'all listen, we're gonna come back tonight at 8 o'clock. Ladies, y'all were honestly, oh my gosh, like y'all was off the chain. Diva Time, you did your thing as a judge.
Thank you.
Mo, oh my God, you killed it. Riri killed it. Quake killed it. Thank y'all so much for coming in and doing this. Y'all don't know how much easier y'all make it on me when I was reading these things all by myself and going from to ooh to hey. Listen, I appreciate y'all so much. Okay.
Yeah, hey Atmos. I've been sharing my the lives with one of my sisters, and she's on day 17 right now. So I told her, I was like, well, we having day 18. She say Atmos needs some acting roles for real.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, how does he read all of that? Because that's thousands upon thousands of pages before you started getting people in there. So we really appreciate you, Atmos, for getting that information, grinding and doing that work. I know this is my first time being able to jump in, but we appreciate you so much.
Well, here's the thing. My brother Larry, he actually the one who like started all this, and so if it wasn't for him like saying, "Yo, bro, I need you to step up," while he go handle some business, I wouldn't be doing this. So a shout out to Larry, free Larry. He'll be home soon. But thank y'all so much for seeing the hard work that we are putting in. And I appreciate y'all for jumping in. Miss Mo, you ain't have to jump in, but you jumped in. Girl, you read like a doggone, like a dolphin swims. Ooh, like, girl, killing it with the expression and all that. Well, what time did you call?
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting to go at it with Canic. I want to get some injections in there, so I might have to come back in another time once you get going.
Thank you, Nakia Harris. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. Listen, tonight, 8 o'clock. Let's come back. Let's rock and roll. Let's get into this, okay? Thank y'all so much. I love y'all. I will see y'all later. Don't forget, we stopped at page 3823. I will see y'all tonight.
All right.
Peace out.
I want to tell you one thing real quick. I'm gonna send you an email. Remember, I told you I was gonna research the sentencing guidelines from the federal government.
Yes, ma'am.
So I found them, and you have to start with the one that he's the most time that he's gonna get. Okay. And that one is like at a level 38. They got all kind of different levels that they can add for all these different crimes. So he's already maxed out at life. That's why they're talking about he can get up to life as a criminal, as this being his first criminal, his first, crime, his first conviction. I'm gonna send it to you.
Hey, Daddy's Girl, 1973. To be honest with you, honey, I see you said, Atmos, what day was reading of the doctor who reviewed the medical report? I can't remember. Don't get me lying. You know what? I think I have it go in the playlist on my page, and you should. His name is Mr. McGrath. I don't know if, I don't know exactly what day.
Back there.
All right,
that was back there.
East Coast. Yeah, 8 o'clock East Coast, 8 o'clock Eastern, okay? I'm about to go give me something to eat. And then we're going to get back into this tonight, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Y'all were amazing. Hopefully y'all come back tonight because y'all were just great.
Yeah, I'll be available.
Yeah, then.
All right. The Cash App, if y'all want to donate towards the transcripts, or if you want copies of the transcripts, I will send them to you. Jay McBride, I'm about to send yours right now. But the Cash App to the page, I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. It is right here. It's $ This Blessed House is strolling at the bottom, or you can do the PayPal. $ This Blessed House, just so y'all know. I like to keep y'all abreast on what's going on. We're only 260 short from being able to get day 21 and day 22. Okay? All right. Thank you. I just got your email, Riri. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a blessed night. I'll see y'all at 8 o'clock tonight. Okay?
All right.
Peace out.
Oh, 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 no.
I don't need negative energy, wrap me in positive synergy. I have been doubted through life, been there and done that with trifling people who told me my style would not work. I told them they wrong, they're struggling too long. This song is for you, I'm proving you wrong.
Get out my way, get out my way, get out my way.
Get out my way.
I'm a genuine person. Like if I love you, I love you. If I don't mess with you, I don't mess with you. It's as simple as that.